Number 1.
This sad, terrible story took place in the year 2003, when I was a 14-year-old girl still living in my home country of Uruguay. My best friend at the time, same age as me, was my neighbor who lived with her mother and grandmother, 3 houses down from mine. We had been friends since we were babies. We grew up together, went to the same school, moved in the same social circle, we even went on vacation together. And our families were pretty close. Her mom, early 30s at the time, was a single mom working as a secretary. They didn't have it bad. Between her salary and the grandparents' pension, they lived comfortably and without any major setbacks. Her mom started seeing a foreign guy who was in the country for business. He claimed to be from Spain, but he had a funny accent, as if he was originally from Italy or another non-Spanish speaking country. He was supposedly rich, despite staying in a rinky-dinky hotel. The hotel did have a pool, though. He would often show pictures of himself in a luxurious residence. He said it was his house in Ibiza, pictures of him driving a red sports car, a picture of him in front of the Eiffel Tower. After a month and a half or so of dating, my friend's mom said they were leaving the country in perhaps the next 6 to 7 months. She was in love with him and had promised her a life of luxury in Europe, and everything was going to be perfect. The country they were moving to, Spain, her and her daughter. The grandma couldn't come, at least not yet. She was supposed to meet them in the future after they had settled in, but at the time, wasn't he rich? So many red flags. This is where I come in. Since I was such good friends with Maritza, the guy had told Maritza's mom to bring me along for vacation, that it would be good for Maritza. I was of course thrilled. A month in Europe with my best friend who was moving away, and the idea of going to see her every summer and stay at her stepfather's mansion, it was a dream. My parents of course weren't so thrilled at first, but as they got to know him, they liked him, and eventually he won them over too. Eventually, I even got a little weekend job as a waitress at my uncle's restaurant to help my parents with the plane ticket and other costs. We got my passport, we were ready to go. As the months went by, it became evident that I wasn't going to be able to go. The money I had saved just wasn't enough, didn't even cover half the ticket. My parents couldn't come up with the money for the rest of the trip. A week or so before they left, the guy came to my house and talked to my parents. He offered to pay for my plane ticket. My parents politely declined. I was fuming. I swore I would never talk to my parents again. I didn't come out of my room for days. Eventually I got over it, and when it was time to go to the airport to say goodbye to them, I did. We cried, we hugged, we promised each other we would meet up next summer. By then I would already have the money saved. They left. We never heard from them again. The days went by and nothing. I remember the grandmother, the pain on her face, the nights she went on without sleeping, home alone without her daughter and granddaughter, who were supposed to call her as soon as they arrived in Spain, and yet they never did. Eventually, they were reported as missing. Surprisingly enough, the guy had given out his real name and last name the whole time. So after the cops got involved, it turned out that he had this huge record in Spain and Italy, and had been in jail for drugs, prostitution, kidnapping, extortion, and God knows what else. The police told their family that they were most likely sold into a human trafficking ring, that this was very common, and that sadly there were too many cases like it. There was nothing to do but wait. The last time anyone saw them, or had any register of them, was that they... Oh my god, you hear my tongue? It's like... Last time anyone saw them, or had any register of them, was at that airport in Seville when they arrived. Nothing else. It breaks my heart even to this day, and to think that if my parents had said yes, I wouldn't be here today. It sends chills down my spine. Sometimes I look Maritza up on Facebook in hopes that I'll find her. Maybe she regained back her life and her freedom, but nothing ever shows up. The grandmother died in 2013 too, sadly without ever seeing or hearing about her daughter and granddaughter again.
Number 2.
My mom separated from my dad in early 2013 when I was 17. He had already threatened to kick me out of his home for a multitude of reasons, anything from violating curfew to being bisexual. And really, I wasn't a bad kid. All I did was work and go to school. So I moved out with my mom and agreed to pay 1/3 of the rent, or about $400 a month. At the time, I made $7.50 an hour to get verbally abused by customers and flip burgers, and I worked around 20 to 25 hours per week. Plus, I went to school. Plus, I kind of had a social life. So usually on any given week, I was home for about 2 evenings, and out otherwise. My mom was pretty lenient with me since I was paying rent, so my curfew was usually between 12 to 2:30. My mom worked a full time at Wawa that was 4 minutes. Wow, Wawa. My mom worked full time at Wawa that was 45 minutes away. She was also in school and had a boyfriend that lived a town over. She was home about as often as I was. We had a cat, and it was pretty much just us. And this apartment used to be a barn, split into 4 apartments, 2 on both floors, and has an inaccessible attic and a basement that's creepy as fuck. It's off a main road, a ways back down a driveway, in an open field with a few other ancient buildings around it, and not much else besides trees. Initially, we took comfort in this. But then it got weird. Like, really weird. There was a closet in her bedroom that locked from the inside, and randomly, it would be locked. Same with the pantry. Small things would be moved, and more we noticed we were missing things. Things would happen by themselves. It was eerie, but it was right outside of a civil war zone, a major one, said to have hosted the bloodiest battle outside of Gettysburg. It was so dumb, but at first, we thought it was a ghost, or we thought it was the other person. Obviously, it was a tense, weird time. I was getting sick of my mom smoking weed, so before I left work one day, after she left work too, I set up a simple string trap that would snap when she opened the door. I just wanted to know for sure it was her, and that we didn't have a pothead poltergeist floating around here. You see, this is what fucking infuriates me about these stories. None of these fucking people can write. Like, they all do this. An hour before my shift ends, my mom calls me that she needs to cover it. And they do it like a past present tense. Like, it's so disgusting. Like the story itself is taking place in the past, but the words they use are in present tense. You have no idea how infuriating that is for me as a narrator.
Yeah, you're told.
An hour before my shift ended, my mom called to tell me that she needed to cover another An hour before my shift ended, my mom called to tell me that she needed to cover another shift, so she'll be doing a double, and asked if I had bus money to get home. I did, so I went home. To my surprise, the string trap had been tripped. I was, again, missing a pinch of weed. I was sober and beyond explainably paranoid. My chest was starting to feel tight with anxiety, and I grabbed the pepper spray out of my bag. As I left the room, I heard feet shuffling above my head. My heart dropped. I might have even shit myself. I grabbed the paraphernalia, set it somewhere safe aside, and bolted from the house and ran to the Burger King across the street while I dialed 911. After a little bit, the police showed up. I was beginning to feel like I definitely overreacted. I felt so stupid. I wanted to tell Officer Jones to go home, but I changed my mind. There was nobody smoking weed in my house. But I did feel better when they told me they would go search the house, and one of them stayed outside to wait with me while the other searched for the footsteps. I'm on the phone with my mom, who's a mixture of pissed off and concerned, telling her that it's probably all good, and I'm sorry for scaring her. But then the door to the house swings open. I can hear a struggle. I walk to see it better, and a police officer and a husky, bearded man are wrestling at the foot of my stairs, just in front of the door. The bearded guy is holding onto the doorknob with one hand. I was so shocked and afraid. I had to hang up the phone. The man gets away and makes a sharp left across the patio, over the short wooden fence and into the field with all the trees in it. He's gone into the night. The officers disappear after him, only to return and tell me that he got away. They did a thorough sweep of the house. They found his semen around the drain of the shower, as well as on our loofahs and razors. The discovery that the pantry had an attic drop-down door that was painted over, that this man had chipped at and gotten inside long before we showed up. He had been squatting there since summer. When people moved in, he took to hiding in the attic, pantry, or closet. He came out when we weren't home. He ate our food. The officers didn't know, but he smoked our weed. He probably had a bond with our cat. If he didn't actually see me have sex, he definitely heard it. And seriously, who wangs into a razor blade? It just makes me want to die to this day when I think about it. My mom's boyfriend moved in with us shortly after, and I was home even less. To this day, I'm paralyzed with fear when I hear a strange noise, like the house settling. I keep mace on me always, everywhere, at all times. This guy wasn't even violent, I guess, but just the idea that he wanked his free willy into a loofah makes me feel unsafe in a profound way.